Lillian Okafor was beautiful. Not the type that shouted it with makeup or noise, but the kind that you saw in her eyes, in the way she carried herself. Calm, graceful, and kind. She was rich too, one of the youngest billionaires in Nigeria, owner of Fundus, a company that helps everyday people lend and borrow money safely. Her face was often on business magazines, and her name opened doors in places where only few could walk. Yet with all that, Lillian was quiet, polite, humble. People said she had everything, but Lillian still felt empty sometimes. She longed for something money could never buy. Love, a real one, a husband, a family, a house full of laughter and little feet. She wanted someone to call her baby, not because of who she was, but in spite of it. A man who held her not just when cameras were flashing, but when she broke down behind closed doors. Because Lillian grew up with nothing. No parents, no siblings, no hugs before school. She was an orphan, a girl from the street who built her world from ashes. It happened when she was 9. They were on their way to an important event. Her father was driving. Her mother was humming a hymn, twisting the scarf on Lillian's head with one hand and holding her tiny palm with the other. It was a beautiful morning. Then it happened. A big truck came out of nowhere. The screeching, the shattering glass, the screaming, and then silence. When Lillian opened her eyes, her dress was soaked with blood. She saw her father's hand twisted like a rope, her mother's eyes open but empty. She tried to shake her. "Mummy," she whispered, "Mummy, please wake up." She didn't. After the burial, nobody came for Lillian. No aunt, no uncle, no cousin. She had no one. The woman from the church who led the funeral took pity on her. She placed a shaky hand on her shoulder and said, "You can come stay at our shelter. It's not much, but it's something." That's how she ended up in a dusty room with 5 other girls. She shared a bunk bed with a girl who cried at night and stole bread in the morning. Lillian began cleaning toilets, washing plates, carrying water. She became the quiet one, the girl who didn't talk much but always helped. At 13, she discovered the church library. It was small but had old computers, big white boxes with slow internet, and cracked keyboards. Most girls used it to watch music videos. Lillian opened YouTube tutorials and started learning how websites were built. It made her feel like she could control something, even if it was just how a button looked on a screen. By 16, she had built her first website. It was for a dry cleaner around the corner. The man couldn't pay her much. "This is the cleanest design I've seen." She went home and cried under the blanket, because someone finally saw her. From there, her journey began. She took odd jobs, designed flyers, coded at night when the generator was off. She saved every naira. At 22, she built an app called ChopSmart, which helped market women calculate their daily sales easily. It went viral. A man from California emailed her, said he liked her work and sees her raw talent. He was an angel investor. He asked for a video call. Lillian didn't even have a proper phone. She borrowed one from the shelter office and used their Wi-Fi. She wore her cleanest blouse and sat against a plain wall so he wouldn't see the peeling paint behind her. He invested $100,000. That's how her life changed. By 27, she launched Fundus, the app that changed how money moved in Africa. Within 2 years, it had over 4 million users. She became the youngest female billionaire in West Africa. But Lillian didn't forget. She hired women from shelters. She started free coding classes for orphans. She still walked barefoot at night sometimes to remind herself where she started. The world clapped for her. But deep inside, she still felt alone when the lights were off. And all she wanted, even with all her billions, was someone to whisper, "You're not alone anymore." Unlike many rich ladies, Lillian liked to drive herself. Even though she had a driver, 3 cars, and more than enough security if she asked for it, she preferred the silence of her own steering wheel. Especially at night. There was something about seeing the city lights blur through her tinted glass, something peaceful, like she could hide in plain sight. A billionaire dressed in lace and gold earrings, blending with regular people who had no idea who she was. She didn't dress to brag. Her wigs were expensive, yes, Her perfumes filled the car with soft vanilla, and her heels often clicked with quiet power when she walked. But she didn't do it to show off. She just liked to feel clean, put together, in control, even though deep inside, she still felt like the girl from the church shelter. That night, it rained. Heavy. The kind of rain that slapped windows and drowned traffic noise. Lillian had just left an awards event. She had received another plaque, Young Humanitarian of the Year. She smiled for photos, shook hands, gave a quick speech. But as always, the minute the crowd clapped and the stage lights faded, she felt tired again. "One more thing to hold in my house," she whispered, placing the award in the back seat beside the takeout box the caterers had given her. As she drove down a quiet road in Surulere, her eyes caught something or someone by the side of the road. A mechanic shop. Closed. Dark. But right there, on the ground under a broken umbrella, was a man. He looked unconscious. Tired. His shirt soaked. His beard rough. She slowed down, pulled over, put on her hazard lights. She stepped out, heels sinking into soft mud. "Hello?" she said softly. "Sir?" No answer. She moved closer and touched his shoulder. The man flinched and sat up quickly like someone waking from a nightmare. His eyes were red, his lips cracked. "I'm sorry," he said, breathing hard. "I didn't mean to sleep here, I just needed a place to rest. I'll go, please." She raised a hand gently. "You're not in trouble." He looked at her now, confused. He blinked twice, studying her carefully, her dress, her nails, her calm voice. "I thought you were FRSC or something," he said. She gave a small smile. "No, just a human being. Are you okay?" He sighed. I don't know. Tired, I guess." He leaned back against the shop wall. "Do you live around here?" she asked. He chuckled sadly. "I don't really live anywhere right now." There was silence for a moment. Then she sat on the edge of her car's seat and asked quietly, "What's your name?" "Emmanuel," he said. "But people call me Emmy." "Nice to meet you, Emmy. I'm Lillian." He looked at her again, like he recognized the name but wasn't sure where from. "I'm not crazy," he said quickly. I've been out of work for months. Did graphics before, designs, logos, social media stuff. But things got bad, I couldn't pay rent, so here I am, resting by a mechanic shop, and even that seems like too much these days." Lillian didn't speak right away. She just looked at him, looked at his tired hands, his eyes, his cracked nails. She saw herself again. A little girl with no place to go, just looking for somewhere safe to rest her head. She stood up, went back to her car, and returned with a small nylon bag. "I have a shirt here," she said. "I was supposed to give it to someone, but you can have it." He hesitated. "I also have food, from the event I attended. I'm not hungry. You can eat it." She placed the box beside him and stood back. He stared at it, then looked at her again. "You feel sorry for me?" he asked. "No," she said calmly. "I see you. That's different." He shook his head. "I don't want pity." She smiled faintly. "This isn't pity. It's a partnership." He blinked. "I run a foundation," she continued. "We need someone to design new flyers for our next youth tech program. It's small, but it's paid. Interested?" He stared at her, unsure if she was real. "You serious?" "I don't offer people things I don't mean." He looked at the food box, then at his clothes, then at her clean white dress. After a long pause, he whispered, "Okay." That's how it started. She gave him her assistant's number, told him to come in the next day. And before she left, she turned and said, "Your story's not over, Emmy. Don't act like it is." He stood in the rain, shirt in hand, watching her drive away. Emmy showed up at the office. He was nervous, sweaty palms, wore the shirt she gave him. He worked quietly at first, just designs, simple layouts. But then his confidence grew. His designs were bold. Emmy got his first real paycheck. He used it to rent a small room. The next month he bought a proper laptop. He wore better clothes, grew a bit of a beard, walked straighter. Lillian noticed. She didn't say anything. But every time she looked at him, she smiled. And that was how it began. It was a warm Tuesday afternoon. Lillian sat with her team at the NGO office, the small one tucked behind her main headquarters. The place always felt like home. Old blue chairs, a blinking ceiling fan, the smell of rice coming from the nearby food vendor. It was nothing like her corporate tower downtown, but somehow it was her favorite place to be. Laughter filled the air. Her staff, mostly women from underprivileged backgrounds, were sharing stories. One was talking about her baby's new teeth. Another joked about her neighbor who kept stealing her slippers. Lillian was right there with them. Legs crossed. No heels today. Just sandals and a wide smile. "Madam Lillian," one of them teased, "you blend with us so well, you don't treat us like people who are actually beneath you." She laughed. "You are not serious, Mary. You say that as if you guys are beneath me or something. Besides, you guys help me relax." They all laughed again. Just then, Lillian's assistant leaned in and whispered, "Ma, your car is ready. You're meant to be at that private charity dinner in Lekki by 7. "Oh." Lillian stood quickly. "I completely forgot." She picked up her bag and turned to the group. "I'll see you ladies later. Don't forget to send me pictures of Blessing's cake." As she stepped outside to find her driver, a voice called from behind her. It was Emmy. He had just finished a design review meeting and was adjusting his sleeves as he walked toward her. "You're heading out?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes. Some charity dinner. I don't even know the area well." "Can I take a look at the address?" Emmy asked. Then she handed him her phone. "I know the place," Emmy said. "I can drive you." Lillian paused. She was used to controlling her movement, her space, but something about his offer felt easy. "Okay," she smiled. "Let's go." The drive started in silence. Just the low hum of the AC and the occasional honk from buses. Then Emmy glanced at her and said, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." He turned down the music a little. "How are you like this?" "Like how?" She chuckled. "So down to earth. You're a billionaire, but here you are laughing with cleaners, joking with office assistants. No bodyguards, no stress." Lillian smiled and looked out the window for a moment. "I wasn't born into money, Emmy." He glanced at her quickly. "I grew up with nothing. My parents died when I was 9. A church shelter raised me. I washed plates, mopped floors, wore second-hand shoes." Emmy stared at the road ahead, his grip tightening slightly on the steering wheel. "I didn't get here because someone gave me a golden spoon," she continued. "I got here because I knew what it felt like to be invisible. So I see people now not by what they have, but by who they are." There was a long pause. Then Emmy said softly, "I'm impressed, seriously." Lillian looked at him then. Not just glanced, looked. He wasn't wearing anything fancy, just a clean shirt and jeans. His wristwatch was probably not expensive. But his eyes held something. Depth, honesty, hunger. After that night, the ride, the conversation, the way his eyes had lingered, something changed between Lillian and Emmy. Their closeness became obvious. The shared glances, the inside jokes, the way he held her elbow when they crossed the road like something precious. Soon people started asking questions. She took Emmy to a board dinner with her foreign investors. Everyone wore suits and spoke in polished English. Emmy looked unsure at first, but he smiled and shook hands with confidence. Lillian watched him quietly, her heart soft. They began going to more high-end gatherings, quiet charity auctions, impact forums. But something in Emmy had started to shift. The boy who once whispered thank you over a takeout meal now laughed a little louder when wealthy men praised him. He walked straighter, spoke more confidently, bought expensive perfumes, started acting, used to it. One day he posted a photo on Instagram, himself standing beside his new car. The likes rolled in. Old friends from his past reappeared in his DMs. Then came the reunion. He was invited to a small gathering by his old crew, guys he hadn't heard from in months. Some had ignored his calls back when he was struggling, but now they were the first to arrive. He walked in and they all stood and clapped. "Baba Billionaire-in-law," one shouted. "Emmy, we are hailing you. Please show us the way." They laughed, patted him on the back, poured drinks. Then one leaned in and said, "So how did you even meet her, bro? To trap a rich woman isn't an easy fit. I think we all need to learn from you." Emmy paused. He didn't correct them when they used the word trap. Then he smiled. He lied. "I met her at a tech event. We vibed. She liked my confidence. I showed her some of my work and boom, here we are, but mind you, I had already started out before then. Not that she helped me or anything like that. In fact, I had several people willing to sign deals with me that night, and she saw it too. Probably why she decided to approach me first. He bragged. The men nodded, impressed. Someone toasted, "To Emmy, Man of the Year." What Emmy didn't know was that Tina was there too, although he didn't see her. She'd seen the lie. Tina, Lillian's best friend since university, her PR manager, her protective older sister in everything but blood. She watched silently as Emmy's image started to rise, polished, filtered, crafted. She started hearing whispers, but she waited for the right time. Meanwhile, Lillian started noticing small cracks. Emmy stopped showing up at her charity events. Always had an excuse. "I'm tired. I hate cameras. I'm not into crowds." But she noticed something else. He never said no to money. Never turned down the suits, the gadgets, the monthly startup support she gave him. One day he picked her up in a sleek black Mercedes, one she had paid for. She looked at him amused. "You like it?" He smiled, kissed her cheek. "I deserve it." Later that week, Tina stormed into Lillian's office, holding her iPad. "He's lying," she said flatly. Lillian looked up. "About what?" "He's telling people he met you at a tech summit, that he was already running a studio before you came in." Lillian shrugged. "So?" Tina folded her arms. "And this car? The one you gave him as a gift? He's saying it's from his hard work. That his startup just picked up." Lillian looked away, quiet. Tina stepped closer. "Lil, he's rewriting the story to protect his ego, I get that. But this doesn't sit right with me. He's hiding, lying, and you're funding the lie." Lillian sighed. "Tina, I know." "Then why are you still doing all this?" She looked out the window, her voice soft. "Because he needs to feel like a man. If the world knows I'm behind everything, it'll break him. I might not be a flashy person, but Emmy likes good things. That doesn't make him a bad person." Tina scoffed. "It doesn't make him a good one either." Lillian turned sharply. "You think I don't know how this looks? But I love him, Tina, and I'd rather protect him than embarrass him." There was a long silence between them. Then Tina spoke again, her voice lower. "Just promise me one thing. If this goes bad, you won't let it destroy you." Lillian smiled faintly. "I've survived worse." But even as she said those words, she felt a strange ache in her chest. Because sometimes love doesn't come with fire. Sometimes it comes with slow, quiet cracks. And Lillian, for all her strength, was starting to feel the floor shift beneath her feet. Emmy's company was finally picking up. The buzz around him grew louder, and so did he. With Lillian's silent backing, her investment, network, and social capital, his startup was thriving. He moved into a larger office space in Victoria Island, bought new suits, rebranded his entire brand. People started calling him the silent genius behind the Billionaire. He smiled at the title, but never corrected anyone. And Lillian, watching from the sidelines, told herself she didn't mind. "Let him shine," she whispered late one night, scrolling through a blog post that gave him all the credit. That's what love is. One afternoon, during a visit to his office, she heard him shouting at a young intern, a girl who had misspelled a caption on an Instagram draft. "Are you daft?" Emmy had barked. "You can't spell engagement, and you want to manage a client's account." The room fell silent as she stepped in. The girl looked down, trembling. Lillian smiled gently and diffused the tension. Emmy laughed it off, blaming caffeine. Then there was the restaurant. A fine place in Ikoye. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, the kind of place that whispered class. They were having dinner, talking softly, laughing. Then the waiter, a young girl with tired eyes, accidentally spilled a drop of wine on Emmy's sleeve. Just one drop. But Emmy stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. "What's wrong with you? Do you know how much this shirt costs? You couldn't afford this with your 2 years' salary. Are you blind?" The girl froze. Everyone turned. "Emmy," Lillian said calmly. He turned to her, chest heaving. Then, like a switch, he softened. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. It's just been a long week. But that night, back in her room, Lillian sat in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her heart didn't feel settled. The image of that girl, her trembling hands, her blinking eyes, it lingered. She pulled the duvet closer. Maybe he's just tired, she whispered to herself. Stress does things to people. But deep inside, another voice whispered back. Or maybe this is who he really is. Money can bring out a person's true nature, they say. Then she drifted off to sleep. The next night, Emmy asked her to dinner again. But this time, it wasn't loud. It was private. A rooftop terrace, lit with small white lights. Just the two of them. A soft playlist in the background. Jollof and peppered chicken from her favorite caterer. No press, no friends, no hashtags, just them. She was in a white dress. He wore a dark blue suit. He barely touched his food. Then he stood up, walked to her side, and dropped to one knee. Her breath caught. From his pocket he brought out a small velvet box. Lillian. She covered her mouth. You saved me from myself. You gave me a name when I didn't have one. You gave me strength when I had none left. Let me do one thing right in this life. Let me love you forever. She burst into tears. Not because she didn't see the red flags, but because in that moment she wanted to believe. She said yes. He slid the ring on her finger. They hugged under the stars. And just like that, every doubt in her heart was swept under the carpet. Maybe he really is the one. Maybe love is messy before it's perfect. Maybe I was just being negative. The next morning, she went straight to Tina's place. Tina opened the door, hair in rollers, holding a cup of tea. Someone's glowing, she said, raising a brow. Lillian lifted her left hand slowly. The ring sparkled. Tina's mouth opened slightly. Then she pulled her friend into a hug. Oh, Lil, congrats. She held her for a long time. When they pulled apart, Tina looked her in the eye. I'm happy for you, I really am. But her voice had a careful tone. Then she added, just make sure the wedding doesn't blind you from the marriage. Lillian smiled. I will. But as she drove home, her smile faded a little. Because even though Tina didn't say it out loud, she knew. After the proposal, everything moved fast. Calls, congratulations, blog headlines, billionaire bride-to-be engaged to creative genius. But beyond the headlines and the sparkle of her ring, reality was waiting. The first visit was to Emmy's family. They had arranged a small meet and greet at a family compound. She didn't want to look like money. She wanted to look like someone's future daughter-in-law. But the moment she stepped out of the car, the silence said more than words ever could. His parents stood near the entrance, his mother's arms folded, his father leaning on a walking stick. They didn't smile much. Good afternoon, sir, Ma. Lillian greeted warmly. They nodded. They served her food, sat with her, asked questions. But there was no warmth in their eyes. Not dislike, just distance. Caution. Like they weren't sure if this was a woman or a transaction. Inside the house, Emmy was chatting proudly with his younger cousins. They all laughed at something he said. Then Lillian noticed his mother flinch slightly. Later, while Emmy stepped out to take a call, one of his aunts came to sit beside Lillian. She was different. Gentle eyes, calm voice. Aunt Ruth. You're doing well, my dear, she said, reaching for Lillian's hand. And I'm happy you came all the way here. Thank you, Ma, Lillian replied with a soft smile. Aunt Ruth sighed. You see, child, Emmanuel is from hardship, real hardship. His heart is good, but don't be blind to the difference. Love is not just feelings. It's patience, understanding, and sometimes painful compromise. Lillian listened quietly. Aunt Ruth leaned closer. Make sure your hearts match, not just your lifestyle. Before Lillian could reply, Emmy returned with a big smile. Come, let me show you where I used to sleep before, he said excitedly, holding her hand. She followed, her heart full, her mind quietly full too. The next weekend, it was time for Emmy to meet her people. Lillian didn't have much family in the traditional sense, but she had Pastor James. He was waiting for them in a small living room in Surulere, holding a well-worn Bible and a warm smile. When he saw Lillian, he hugged her. My daughter, he whispered, You've grown into a woman of strength." Then he looked at Emmy, tall, freshly shaved, confident. "You must be Emmanuel," Pastor James said. "Yes, sir, it's an honor." They sat, talked about faith, about love, about what it meant to build a home. At the end of the meeting, Pastor James held their hands and prayed, "May God bless your union with honesty, with peace, and with truth. And may nothing hidden stay hidden if it will harm what God is trying to build." Emmy said amen. Lillian said nothing, but her eyes stayed closed a little longer than usual. That night, alone in her bedroom, Lillian removed her earrings slowly. The house was quiet. The light from the hallway painted shadows on the wall. She thought of Aunt Ruth, of the silent way Emmy's mother had looked at her, of the prayer, "May nothing hidden stay hidden." She shook her head and smiled sadly to herself. "Lillian, you're overthinking again," she said aloud. "You love him. He loves you. That's enough." She picked up her phone, opened their picture from the rooftop proposal and stared at it. They looked perfect. She just hoped perfect would be enough to make real. And just like that, wedding preparations began. It was meant to be a celebration, something beautiful, a union of love, but behind the closed doors, things weren't that soft. Emmy was more involved than expected. Very involved. He picked the venue, a luxury hall in Umoisi. He called the event planner himself. He even chose the DJ, the flower arrangement, and asked for a red carpet entrance with LED lights shaped like their initials. Tina raised an eyebrow during one meeting. As they sat in Lillian's office, going through mood boards and menus, Tina leaned back and said, "Since when did men become wedding planners?" Lillian laughed. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it's cute, but most guys just show up and say yes or no. This one is deep in color palettes and seating charts. Feels off." Lillian shook her head. "Not everyone's the same, Tina. Maybe he just wants to make sure it's perfect." Tina looked at her. "Or maybe he's trying to look rich in front of people who don't know the money isn't his." Lillian frowned. "Come on, Tina." Tina raised her hands. "I'm just saying, be careful. That's all." But Lillian dismissed it. What Tina didn't know was that Lillian was quietly paying for everything. The hall, the rings, the dresses, the planner. Even the tuxedos for Emmy's groomsmen. She didn't want to embarrass him. He'd already told her once, "Let me shine a little, babe. I don't want people thinking I'm just following you around." So she let him shine, and dimmed her own light to do it. Meanwhile, Emmy was bragging behind her back. Among his old friends, some of whom never returned his calls when he was broke, he became the boss. He told them he was handling things. That he'd booked everything. They hailed him, clapped for him, called him Odogwu. Lillian heard it all, but she didn't mind. He was the man after all. His parents' caution hadn't changed either. His mother still treated her like a visitor, not a daughter. His father barely spoke, always quiet, watching. One evening, Lillian asked him softly, "Do your parents like me?" Emmy looked up from his phone. "Why would you even ask that?" "I don't know, they're just distant." He waved his hand. "You're overthinking things. That's just how they are. It's not about you." She nodded. But a piece of her heart folded in. Then came the message. Tina was scrolling through Emmy's Instagram when she saw it. A comment on one of his recent posts, him posing in front of his car with the caption, "Grace will always elevate." The comment stood out. "Real Doreen. You're the one I love." Just like that. Tina screenshotted it, sent it to Lillian. Lillian was quiet for a few minutes before replying. "It's nothing. These things happen." Tina called her immediately. "Babe, did you even read what she wrote? She didn't say I admire you or nice photo. She said you're the one I love." "That's deep," Lillian sighed. "Desperate girls throw comments around like water, Tina." He didn't reply. If he was hiding something, he would have deleted it. Or maybe he hasn't seen it yet. Even if he saw it, it's public. He has female followers. I can't start chasing shadows because of one comment. Tina's voice grew softer. "Lillian, you're bending backwards. Don't disappear inside this relationship." Lillian forced a laugh. "He's the best thing that's happened to me. I'm just being mature." But after the call, she sat in silence. Her fingers hovered over her own phone, tempted to check his DMs, tempted to ask, tempted to wonder. but instead she opened her wedding checklist, guest list, venue deposit, custom gown fitting. She had a wedding to plan. No time for paranoia. And yet, as she crossed off photographer from the list, a small voice in her head whispered, "What if Tina is right?" She blinked, shook her head. "No, not Emmy. He loves me." And like always, she defended him. Even from her own doubts. The night before her wedding, Lillian couldn't sleep. The city outside her window sparkled like it was holding its breath for her big day. The house was full, makeup artists, bridesmaids, caterers, everyone smiling, everyone excited. But she just wanted a moment alone. In her bag, she held a small velvet box. Inside it was a gold-plated wristwatch, custom engraved with "To My Forever," and a folded note she'd written by hand. "Tomorrow I say yes to more than love. I say yes to us." She smiled to herself, nervous and excited. She told her assistant, "I'll be right back." She didn't tell anyone where she was going. Emmy was staying at a hotel just 15 minutes away, one of those high-end suites with mood lighting and oversized mirrors. She took the elevator up. Her heels clicked gently on the hallway tiles. She adjusted her scarf, held the box tight, and reached for the door. Then she stopped. Laughter. A man's voice, Emmy's, loud, playful, careless. She froze. Her ears leaned in before her hand could knock. "Doreen, baby, you should be more careful," he was saying. "I just saw your comment on my Instagram. I told you, don't draw attention, just be patient." Lillian's stomach twisted, "Baby. After the wedding, I'll make the move. Her money is mine. You and I? We vanish." A soft giggle followed. "She's too trusting. Just a rich fool in love." Lillian's hand shook. The box fell to the floor with a quiet thud. But her heart made no sound. Her breathing slowed. Tears didn't fall. Not yet. She reached for her phone, opened her voice recorder, and hit record. She listened, every word slicing through her chest like broken glass. "My parents said it's not good to marry a woman who's richer," Emmy continued. "They said even if she acts sweet now, one day she'll control everything. Make me feel like a child in my own house." Doreen laughed lightly. "But I told them to relax," he continued. "I told them that I have a plan, a long game." Lillian pressed her back to the wall, eyes wide, mouth dry. "I didn't give them full details," Emmy continued. He lowered his voice, but she still caught every word. "Once I settle in, I'll start getting access to her assets, piece by piece. I know how she operates. That's the goal. Full control. By the time she notices, it'll be too late. I'll own the house, the shares, even her NGO. Then you and I?" He laughed again. "We disappear. She'll look like the one who got played. Because she did. Of course, baby. You know you are the one I love. I will never love some orphan girl. She's just the sponsor. You're the only one I love." Lillian stood there, still, frozen. When the call ended and silence filled the hallway, she picked up the box quietly. Her hands were trembling, but her voice, when she finally whispered to herself, was steady. "It's over." She didn't knock, didn't scream, didn't cry. She walked back to the elevator, pressed the button. As she stepped inside, she pulled out her phone again, this time to call her lawyer. "Cancel the marriage license, effective immediately. Remove Emmanuel Adet from all shared asset documents. Freeze his access to company-related boards. I want him out by morning." The voice on the other end paused, stunned. "Are you sure, Miss Okafor?" "I've never been more sure." The car ride home was quiet. She held the box in her lap the whole time. When she got home, the bridesmaids were asleep. The lights were dim. The smell of fried puff-puff lingered in the air. She went straight to her room, closed the door, and called the one person who had warned her all along. Tina picked up immediately. "Lil, is everything okay?" Lillian didn't speak at first. Then her voice broke. "You were right." "I didn't want to believe it, Tina, but you were right all along." Tina's voice softened. "What happened?" Lillian told her everything. The call, the way he mocked her, called her a fool in love, said she was too rich to see it coming. By the time she finished, her face was wet with silent tears. "I feel so stupid." "Don't," Tina said firmly. You loved. That's not stupid. That's brave. I don't know what to do now. Everyone's waiting. The pastor. There's a whole wedding planned. Lil, listen to me. I'll support you no matter what you decide. Even if I walk away? Especially then. Lillian hung up, sat at the edge of her bed, looked down at the ring on her finger. She slipped it off slowly. Opened the velvet box, placed the ring beside the watch, closed it. The girl who was supposed to be a bride tomorrow had just saved herself tonight. The morning of the wedding finally arrived. The sun rose too quickly that morning. The house buzzed with movement, makeup brushes, zipped gowns, camera flashes, the scent of coconut oil and perfume drifting through the rooms. But Lillian, she was calm, almost too calm. Her white wedding dress hung by the window, her veil was ready, her shoes waited by the door. But inside her room she wasn't rehearsing her vows. She wasn't thinking about rings or flowers. She was staring at her laptop. On the screen was a 3-minute video she had edited herself, voice clips of Emmy's betrayal, layered over photos of Emmy and Doreen downloaded from Doreen's Instagram. Lillian had found them easily. Photos of them laughing at a beach, a mirror selfie inside a hotel. The audio played softly over the images. Each word was like a knife. Lillian didn't blink as she pressed export and transferred the video onto a flash drive. She handed it to Tina without saying a word. Tina took it. Her eyes held fire. "I've scheduled it," Tina whispered. "It'll play just before the vows. The church projector's ready." Lillian nodded once. Still calm, still quiet. But something deep in her eyes had changed. She didn't look like a bride anymore. She looked like a woman going to war in white. At the venue, the air was thick with excitement. The church was decorated with white and gold. Strings of orchids hung from the altar. The choir rehearsed softly. Ushers in matching outfits moved like clockwork. Guests arrived in shining cars, beautiful lace. Everyone smiled, whispered, took selfies. "It's the wedding of the year," someone said. "The billionaire bride, the humble groom." Except, the groom wasn't so humble anymore. Emmy arrived in a champagne-colored designer suit, tailored, imported, flashy. He stepped out of a black SUV and smiled wide for the cameras. He wore dark shades and gold cufflinks. His friends clapped him on the back, laughing. "You pulled it off big time. Oh, dogwoo." Emmy grinned. He checked his watch, licked his lips, turned to one of the photographers. "Make sure you get my angles. I want premium shots." Inside the church, Pastor James stood calmly at the altar. He had greeted guests, smiled kindly, but now his eyes kept moving toward the entrance. He was waiting for her. Soon the church was still. A soft breeze rustled through the open windows. The sunlight filtered through stained glass, casting golden shadows across the white aisle. Phones were tucked away, heads turned forward. The organ played gently in the background. Lillian stood at the altar. White gown, calm face, bouquet held firmly. Every eye on her. Beside her, Emmy stood grinning. His suit was sharp, his confidence even sharper. He swayed slightly to the music, smiling at guests as if the whole day was a show meant for him. Pastor James cleared his throat and stepped forward. "Shall we proceed with the vows?" Emmy turned to Lillian, heart pounding in excitement. But before the pastor could say more, Lillian raised her hand. "Please, just a moment." Whispers fluttered through the crowd. She stepped away from Emmy, slow, steady. Her heels clicked softly against the tiled altar. She walked to the projector console at the back of the church. Tina met her there, silent. Their eyes locked. No words were needed. Lillian turned to face the crowd. Her voice was clear but quiet. "Before we exchange vows, there's something you need to hear." Then she turned back, clicked play, and stepped aside. The projector lit up, a black screen. Then a photo of Emmy and Doreen appeared, both laughing in a beach selfie. Then came his voice. "After the wedding, I'll make the move. Her money is mine." Phones flew out of purses. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" The room was silent now. Even the ceiling fan sounded too loud. Emmy's face had turned pale. He looked around, at the guests, at the projector, at Lillian, his smile now gone. Then the final words played. The screen went black. Lillian walked back to the altar. She faced the crowd. Calm, strong, still holding her bouquet. That was the man I was supposed to marry. Her voice didn't shake. The same man I trusted with all my heart. Who I loved. Who I believed in. He said I was a fool for loving him. Maybe I was. But what he forgot is that I was never desperate. I was kind. She turned to Emmy. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed my trust, my kindness, and every second I spent believing in you. Gasps. Tears. Phones recording. Emmy stepped forward, hands trembling. Lillian, please, this isn't what it looks like. Pastor James stepped between them. Son, I think all is clear. Lillian continued. This wedding is cancelled, not because I'm angry, but because I choose peace. I choose me. The air in the church was so still, it felt sacred. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the choir stopped halfway through their hymn, holding their breath as Lillian turned to face them all, one last time. Her voice was calm, steady, not loud, but every word sank deep. Her eyes swept over the stunned guests, the trembling groom, the camera still rolling. I nearly married a mask. Gasps echoed, phones recorded. One woman in the front pew covered her mouth. This gown wasn't bought for shame, she continued, her voice rising just slightly. It was bought for strength. She turned toward Emmy, now visibly sweating, eyes wide like a child caught stealing. He stepped forward, lips trembling. Lillian, please. But she raised her hand, firm, elegant, final. I loved you without shame, she said, locking eyes with him. And you betrayed me, without pause. A painful silence fell. Then she added quietly, turns out, being a woman is a crime. And having money as a woman is a bigger one. Not having money, you're invisible. Having money, you're hated. She took one step forward, lifted her train gently and said, but I'd rather walk in truth alone than stay and celebrate a lie with anyone. Then she turned around and walked. No music, just heels clicking, just silence, and the rustling of fabric. Emmy stood frozen, mouth open, words gone. He couldn't even defend himself. Some guests began to clap, slowly at first. Then it grew. A standing ovation. She's a queen. This is power. God just exposed him. Phones were out. Cameras clicked like fireworks. Live videos, TikToks, snaps, reels. Tina stood at the church doors holding them open. As Lillian passed her, she whispered, You didn't just leave a man, babe. You led a movement. Lillian nodded. Still no tears. Still standing tall. She stepped outside. And the world was waiting. Within minutes, social media caught fire. Hash, Lillian walks. Hash, wedding of truth. Hash, from street to shame. Clips of the projector video filled every feed. Reactions, stitches, duets, explainer videos. Women from around the globe. Thank you. You gave me courage to leave. You reminded me to choose myself. By evening, Emmy's phone had over 200 missed calls. But they weren't from supporters. Investors pulled out. 2 clients cancelled ongoing contracts. The landlord served a quit notice. His apartment was under Lillian's name. He tried calling Doreen. Number off. Her Instagram? Gone. He screamed, he wept, and then he fainted. His mother screamed. His father covered his face. Aunt Ruth simply sat in a corner and prayed. This is what happens when greed marries ego, she whispered. 2 weeks after the wedding that never was, Lillian disappeared from the spotlight. No press statements, no interviews, no Instagram comeback posts. She simply went quiet. She turned off her phone, packed a small overnight bag, and told Tina only one thing. I need to breathe when nobody knows my name. Tina hugged her tight and whispered, Go, heal. We'll still be here when you're ready. Somewhere in the east. The car pulled up near a dusty path in a quiet village, rolling green hills, chirping birds. No cameras, no questions, no noise. Just peace. The town was called Umoisi, not famous, not fancy, just kind. She rented a small bungalow behind a Catholic church and began volunteering at the women's shelter nearby. She wore simple clothes, no makeup, no designer labels, just Lillian or Lily. Nobody knew she was a billionaire. And that was the first relief she'd felt in weeks. She had just finished sorting clothing donations when it started to drizzle lightly. She decided to take a shortcut behind the shelter, passing by the local community school. Children's laughter echoed through the windows. Suddenly, a loud crash behind her. Lillian spun around to see a man stumbling backward, his arms wrapped around a large box of chalk and worn-out textbooks. The box had split and scattered everything on the muddy floor. "Oh no," he groaned. He was tall, slim, handsome, and wore a faded blue shirt and black trousers with chalk stains. His glasses hung crooked on his nose. "Let me help," Lillian said quickly, crouching beside him. He looked up, surprised. "Thank you," he said, catching his breath. "I don't usually drop things, I swear." She smiled. "It's okay. Rain makes things slippery and dramatic." He chuckled genuinely. "I'm Michael. I teach JSS 2 math and some English. Badly." "Lillian," she said simply. "From Lagos." They shared a laugh. The rain came harder, and they rushed inside the nearest classroom, empty, with peeling paint and rows of wooden desks. They sat on a bench, soaked but smiling. "So, Lillian from Lagos," he said, adjusting his glasses. "You don't sound like someone who's just visiting." "Maybe I needed to get lost for a while," she said honestly. "Then you came to the right place. We're good at losing time here." He paused, then added softly, "But sometimes peace is better than plans." Michael had no idea who she was. He wasn't on social media. Didn't own a smartphone, just a small button phone. He hadn't seen her viral story. Didn't know about Emmy. Didn't know about the billions. And that made Lillian feel safe. They sat for nearly an hour that day, talking about simple things. Books, childhood, his failed dream of becoming a music producer. And when it was time to go, Michael looked at her shyly and said, "Same time tomorrow? I promise I won't drop anything this time." She nodded. "I'll be there." That night, Lillian sat on her bed, the fan humming above her. No notifications, no headlines, just the echo of a kind stranger's voice in her mind. And for the first time in a long time, she smiled, not for a camera, not for a boardroom, not for a man, just for herself. In the small town of Umoisi, time moved gently. Weeks passed, and with each new sunrise, Michael, or Mr. Daniel, as the children called him, and Lillian grew closer. They cooked together. He taught her how to fish with a hook. She helped him set up a small computer lab at the school, one borrowed desktop at a time. Laughter came easily between them, so did the silences. Comfortable ones, the kind that didn't need filling. Lillian never told him who she was. Not at first. She didn't want to complicate what felt simple and real. One quiet evening after class, Daniel sat outside under the mango tree, scrolling through his borrowed tablet. A headline popped up. "Billionaire bride walks out of wedding, a queen's escape." He paused. There she was, her, in the white gown, head high, eyes calm. He stared for a long time, not at the headline, at her face. He said nothing that night. The next morning, he walked to her bungalow. She was watering the small garden. He didn't say, "Good morning," just held out the tablet silently. She looked down and froze. Their eyes met. "You found out?" she said quietly. "Yes." A beat. "And now?" she asked, bracing herself. Daniel exhaled deeply. "Now I thank you for trusting me enough to just be you, even when you didn't have to." She looked up, tears threatening to fall. He stepped closer. "Lillian, I like the woman who laughs at my dry jokes. I like the woman who teaches kids how to type. The woman who gets mosquito bites because she won't use the net properly. That's you. Whether you're simply Lillian from Lagos or Lillian from the Forbes list, my heart already picked you." They sat together under the mango tree that evening. "I'm falling for you," he said softly. "I already did," she whispered, finally letting herself feel it. "But let's take it slow," she added. "I'm still healing, but I'm ready to love again. just not to fix someone else. He smiled. Fair enough. I don't want fixing. I want forever. One weekend, they walked to the local river, the same place she had once sat alone her first day in Umoisi. The water was still. Birds chirped in the distance. They sat barefoot on a flat rock, dipping their toes in the cool stream. Daniel pulled something from his pocket. A small wooden box. No velvet, no diamonds, just a simple silver ring shaped like a wave. I carved this myself, he said, blushing. It's not much, but it's honest. She stared at him, heart full. Lillian, he said, I don't want your empire. I just want your company, for life. She held his face. I didn't know I could love again, she whispered. But I do, with everything. Yes, yes, Daniel. They kissed softly, nothing loud, nothing dramatic, just the kind of kiss that says, I see you, I choose you, as you are. 2 weeks later they packed up. Not because they were running, but because they were ready. To go home, to face the city, together. This time, not hiding, not pretending, but standing, hand in hand. No more broken weddings. No more masks, just love, quiet, honest, and real. The sun rose slowly over the city that morning, its golden fingers stretching through the skyline like a promise. Lillian and Daniel, hand in hand, stepped back into the city, but they weren't who they were when they left. She had healed. He had bloomed. And together they were not running toward fame, but toward truth. It started with a detour. Daniel took her to a quiet estate near Banana Island. Clean streets, high walls, a simple gate, no guards, no noise. A friend's house? Lillian asked, confused. He smiled. Not quite. Inside was a beautiful minimalist home, open ceilings, hand-carved furniture, art that whispered wealth but didn't scream it. She looked around, eyebrows raised. Daniel, whose house is this? He held her hand gently. There's something I didn't tell you. Lillian blinked. What do you mean? They sat on the terrace as the breeze danced through the curtains. My full name is Michael Daniels. I own Daniels Innovations. My team and I created Vowtech and another 4 startups abroad. I moved back just before I met you. Lillian's breath caught. He continued, after years of heartbreak, being loved for money, not who I was, I just needed to be invisible for a while. I came to Umoisi with nothing but peace in mind. When I met you, I didn't know who you were, I swear. It wasn't a trick, it wasn't a test, you weren't a project, you were my peace. Tears filled her eyes. And now I love you more, not for what you own, but because with you, I remembered how love is supposed to feel. They didn't want headlines, they didn't want hype, they just wanted home. So they planned a private ceremony. No designer gowns, no celebrity chefs, just friends, family, faith. Tina wore a green lace and cried as she helped Lillian tie her headscarf. True love doesn't hide, she whispered. I'm proud of you, babe. Pastor James stood under the chapel roof, tears in his aged eyes as he held their joined hands. You found peace, my daughter, he said, and love. Love found you too. There were only 24 guests, a small choir, a cake baked by hand. Lillian wore a simple white gown. Daniel wore a native agbada with soft embroidery, their smiles unmatched. They danced barefoot under the fairy lights, laughter echoing between them. And in that moment, no past, no pain, no performance, just truth. 2 hearts, 1 promise, no more masks, no more cameras, just love with the lights on. Months passed. The wedding had faded from the blogs. The hashtags had cooled. But Lillian and Daniel, now simply Mr. and Mrs. Daniels, lived quietly, beautifully, intentionally. Their mornings began with prayer. Breakfasts in the small, sunlit corner of their home. Their laughter became the loudest sound in the house. They were each other's peace, not just passion. Lillian worked fewer hours now. She had found balance. Daniel continued his education outreach, supporting rural schools and tech programs. They were wealthy, but more importantly, they were whole. Somewhere in the city, in a cramped, musty, 1-room apartment that hummed with a broken fan and silence. Emmanuel Ede sat on a plastic stool watching his cracked screen. He had lost everything. The apartment he once bragged about? Repossessed, The contracts Lillian helped him get, cancelled. Even Doreen, gone, blocked him on every platform. His parents barely picked his calls. And now? He walked the streets looking for freelance gigs that never called back. One afternoon, while waiting outside a local tech hub for a chance meeting, an old man passed by and stared. Then softly the man said, "Aren't you the guy from that wedding?" Emmy looked up slowly, tired. The one who had everything, and chose nothing. Greed, the man muttered, walking away. That's what does it. Emmy sat down by the wall and wept quietly. But nobody stopped. No cameras, no sympathy, just the wind. And his own echo. Across the city, inside a cozy book cafe in Victoria Island. A woman's voice read out loud from a hardcover titled, "The Vows I Kept for Myself," by Lillian Daniels. This is not just my story. It's a reminder that love should never cost your dignity. That walking away is not failure, it's faith in something better. That you deserve love, not survival. And that, yes, true love exists. The book wasn't just a bestseller. It became a movement. Lillian included stories, speeches, and letters to women afraid to leave, to men struggling in silence, to anyone who thought heartbreak meant the end. Don't stay where you're shrinking. Don't marry because of fear or timelines. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person. And finally, her favorite letter. To the one I almost married. Thank you. Thank you for showing me what I will never accept again. Thank you for being the reason I found myself. Because when I walked away from you, I walked back to me. Daniel read her final draft with tears in his eyes. You're a lighthouse, Lillian, and I'm honored to call you my home. She smiled. And I kept the most important vow, she said, resting her head on his shoulder. Which one? He asked. To never let someone else's brokenness make me forget my own worth. They sat together as the sun set. Two healed hearts. Two open arms. One love, truthfully earned.